TG Geeks, episode 103, November 7th, 2016. What curse awaits? Only the Phantom Shadow knows. Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery. Sci-fi, comics, film, horror, genre, you name it, we talk about it. I am Keith Lane, and we're coming to you from TG Squared Studios in lovely Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Raggington, also coming to you from it's almost 12 noon and it's only 74 degrees outside. It is lovely Phoenix, Arizona.
And today we've got a little special interview for you that was kind of a result of our Stephen Manley interview, and Mark Ross, who is director of a new film, and we'll talk to him, and the intro will make sense to you. And this time we have with us Mark Ross, producer, director, filmmaker, jack of all trades for a new film that's in post-production right now, Curse of the Phantom Shadow. Welcome, Mark, to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me on this Sunday right before Halloween.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us a little bit about who Mark Ross is and how you got into filmmaking.
Well, the short answer is I'm a software engineer by trade, but filmmaking has been a large part of my life, almost my entire life. Right from the very beginning. My father was a avid cinematographer and 16-millimeter film collector. At a very young age, he gave me my first movie camera and taught me stop-motion animation. I had a Super 8-millimeter camera, much like many of our tours today. That's where I started at, and I learned to animate Star Wars action figures, Mr. Spock dolls, and so forth. I was also an avid reader of Starlog, Cinefastique, Fangoria, Cinemagic, and that sort of thing. And I've read tons of filmmaking books over the years, and I'd always been a sci-fi movie fantasy buff as well. And it had been my lifelong aspiration to be a filmmaker. In addition to doing short animated subject films, I put myself through college as a wedding events videographer, which I like to call my film school.
Wow, that can be tough. I don't know if I could ever be a filmmaker or a videographer. I don't like people. I don't like to photograph people. I find buildings and bridges and inanimate objects.
Well, they don't give you lip.
Exactly.
Still life is a lot easier to deal with. When you're doing a wedding and events videography, you hear the same jokes over and over again, such as, don't video me, I'm in the witness protection program, that sort of thing. People can also, there are some very wonderful people. People also, after they've had some drinks in them and so forth, can be a little difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
I've had all kinds of problems over the years. I've got tons of war stories from my wedding events videographer days.
Wow.
And lots of blackmail material, I'm sure.
Most of those tapes are long since gone, but back
darn.
in the day, probably.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Curse of the Phantom. Well, I do want to touch on one thing.
Sure.
It kind of struck me when I read your bio that you sent to us, that you met Forrest Ackerman. I find that just fascinating.
Every sci-fi geek was just going to swoon on that one.
Famous Monsters of Filmland for years.
Do you want me to tell that story? I'd be happy to.
Oh, sure.
By all means, share.
So I knew about Forrest J. Ackerman my whole life. He's been on television for the famous Ackerman Mansion, of all the movie memorabilia, Bela Lugosi's cave, the Dracula ring, and so many other movie props. And Forrest J. Ackerman, of course, was the man who discovered Ray Bradbury.
Right.
He was also the literary agent for L. Ron Hubbard, amongst many other people. And he was, the inspiration for us all. He was the guy that, discovered young, new talent. He was the maker and creator of his day. Just an amazing human being. And, of course, his famous Monsters of Filmland magazine, which I had collected over the years. And I had heard that Forrest was in advanced years but still around, and he had a rule that if his front door was open on a Saturday, you could come in and come see him.
I've heard that.
Wow.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah, and he had since gotten rid of the large Ackerman mansion and moved into a small bungalow. So a buddy of mine was visiting from the East Coast, and I said, hey, would you like to help me scratch something off my bucket list? He says, what's that? I said, well, there's this guy, Forrest J. Ackerman. I'd love to go meet him. He's in the area where we're visiting. He said, really? And I told him the story. So I looked up online Forrest's address, and we found the bungalow, and the front door was open. And it gave a time which you could or could not come by. We waited for that time. I knocked on the door, and at that time, Forrest was in very bad health. He had just broken his hip, but his caretaker said, yes, you can come in. And there is Forrest J. Ackerman sitting in his armchair with a blanket wrapped around him, just, and he was happy to see us. He could barely speak. He was hard of hearing, and he was so happy we were there. And tucked under my arm, I had my 1977 Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine with Star Wars on the front cover.
Oh, wow. I
And
remember that one.
I do too.
He was so happy to see us, and they invited us to look around. A lot of the stuff was in storage, but he had like one of the original Cylons from Battlestar Galactica standing up. He had Bela Lugosi's cape, the ring, and a bunch of other little artifacts. He saw my magazine. He motioned for me to come over, and I handed it to him with a pen, and he signed it, which was a huge thrill. And he was just so happy we came to see him, and I told him who I was and how he's my inspiration. And he's one of those rare cases where your childhood hero really does live up to expectation.
Wow.
And my biggest regret is I met him so late in life, I didn't get to see him in his prime.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Wow.
That's incredible.
It almost makes me want to cry because he was a hero, I think, of so many sci-fi geeks. Because there was that dry period where you really weren't getting anything on the movie screen or on television. All we had was print.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I think my first copy of Famous Monsters of Filmland was 1973 or 74.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was early to mid 70s as well. Wow. I mean
It shows you how old we are. So.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. I mean, print is a large part of my life as well. And part of the fun with the print magazines were the advertisements.
Oh,
yeah.
For the monster movie masks and the kits and other stuff. I'm the same kid who grew up, reading comic book ads, and they had ads similar to that in Famous Monsters of Filmland,
right,
where you could buy a mask of Dracula or something like that. And, as a kid growing up in the mid-'70s, early '80s, that was kind of a big deal.
It was a big deal. It's like going into your favorite toy store almost, except it's all in print. But still, to see all this merchandise and at that age, I remember I would just get so enormously giddy as I looked through all of that. Couldn't get it. But.
Yeah, of course, there was the obligatory Sea Monkeys ad.
Well, I wasn't going to bring them up.
Yes, and that would be Harold von Braunhut you're referring to, the creator of Sea Monkeys and X-Ray Specs.
Yep, that'd be right.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I actually do know of him because I had some dealings with his company back in the Internet era. The intellectual property, and this is an interesting segue, that I generated for Curse of the Phantom Shadow came from the Internet era, and I was talking to the Trans Science company that made the X-ray specs, and I was going to use some of the intellectual property I was carrying to help sell X-ray specs. That never came into fruition, never got beyond the talking stage, but I ended up talking to the personal secretary of Harold von Braunhut, Mr. Sea Monkeys and Mr. X-ray specs himself.
Oh, my Lord. How crazy is that?
How's that for a really strange connection? And Harold von Braunhut was known to have this really nasty screeching parrot. So when I called his secretary or his administrative assistant, whatever you prefer to call her, I could hear this in the background, and that was Mr. Harold von Braunhut's parrot.
Oh, my Lord.
Chew phone cords.
Yeah. So
that's a great story. I like that.
Yeah, let's segue into The Curse of the Phantom Shadow. Tell us about this film. We watched some of your behind the scenes and clips that you have.
Yeah, we looked at the YouTube channel, and what we've seen was just dazzling.
It looks fabulous.
Thanks, guys.
It looks like a combination of Sky Captain and Phantom and a couple of those old that era type.
I was immediately reminded of that 1930s noirish Art Deco kind of kind
That's
of
what we're
vibe.
going for,
And
guys.
I mean, it just made my little geek heart bump.
I have to see it now.
Then I'm very happy to hear that. Then I've hit my target audience. I mean,
Oh, big
yeah.
time.
So tell us about
it's
the
been
film.
my it's 6-year project. It started off as a little idea I had for a YouTube video, and it grew, it expanded, and it snowballed. It was originally supposed to be this tiny little thing I was going to release to YouTube, and then a funny thing happened. I got cleared by SAG for the Screen Actors Guild, and
Oh
the
my
next
gosh.
thing I knew, I started hiring professional actors from Hollywood, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. But it was supposed to be my homage to Dick Tracy, Batman, The Phantom, pulp magazines, comic books, and radio drama. I wanted to do something that that I would find that would appeal to my inner geek. I was always fascinated by secret decoder badges and radio drama, because radio drama was the theater of the mind.
Yes.
I wanted to incorporate elements of that. If you've ever seen The Christmas Story with Ralphie,
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
one of the key parts of The Christmas Story is Ralphie with the secret oral and oral. I'm sorry, we scratched that. Orphan Annie, we scratched that. Orphan
Oral
Annie decoder badge.
Now that's the X-rated version.
I don't
Yes,
know.
I'm sorry,
Little
guys.
Oral Annie.
I had a-
Little
I
Oral
thought
Annie.
it-
I think I may have just found my new drag queen character.
Yeah, let's scratch that one, please. I'll embarrass myself. It was Orphan Annie. I have such a bad tongue slip. It's an
That's all
orphan.
right.
Oh, it was funny. It's okay.
It's a Orphan Annie decoder badge. In fact, I own one of those along with a Captain Midnight decoder badge.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
so that was a huge influence for me, was to incorporate those kind of elements, the Captain Midnight and the whole idea of drink your Ovaltine. In fact, at one point in Curse of the Phantom Shadow, we had a drink your Ovaltine scene, but we do have a scene with a secret decoder badge.
Oh, cool.
Just like in Ralphie, except it's a key plot point to the film. It's where the lines of reality cross between the radio drama and what happens on screen. Our heroine, played by Sadie Alexandru, plays a pinup girl gas station attendant, and she has a secret decoder badge. And then as she's decoding the secret message from the radio show of Curse of the Phantom Shadow, Curse of the Phantom Shadow comes to her, and our hero pops out of his car at her gas station.
Wow.
Oh, I am so nerding out listening to this. I
This is-
can't wait to watch it.
Yeah. So you're in post-production right now. Is that correct?
We are. It's a very difficult process. We are in post.
Okay.
Well, especially since from what we've seen, a lot of this is very green screen.
It is.
Yeah.
It's 85% green screen, which is why it's taken 6 years to complete. It's self-funded. It's visual effects heavy. And I got started with a lot of the visual effects myself. I've since brought in help because it just got bigger than me. But we shot on soundstage twice, in my living room, garages, any place I could set up a green screen or a blue screen. Because it was too expensive to build 1940s sets in a large castle and everything else, I had to go green screen.
What kind of camera equipment were you using for the actual live photography?
We're using a Panasonic DSLR, something called a Lumix, in their stock lens kit. I actually got started in DSLR filmmaking before that became the trend. That's how long I've been doing this. But we shot in high def on DSLR, solid state, all on SD cards, and that was an AVC HD format, which unfortunately is a little more compressed than I would like, but we were a very early adopter of DSLR filmmaking.
Well, I can see that being very helpful, especially if you know you're going to be very effects heavy, so that there's no film to process. You just load it right into the computer and then start plowing away at all the virtual sets, I would imagine.
We did. The problem was, because it was so early in DSLR filmmaking, the format was not really that solid yet, and it does create artifacts that are very difficult to key out for green screen and blue screen.
Oh, wow.
We actually employ rotoscope artists now. We have one based in the United States, and we have one in, I believe, Hungary, who helps clean up the mats so we can get a clean key. But the encoding was so primitive at the time, and the camera has not had its firmware updated, so it was very difficult.
Wow. I know that in one of the things you said that you rented a tow truck and you did 362 takes in 6 hours.
It was crazy. I think it was either 320 or 360. I can't remember now. But yeah,
Wow.
for the film's climax, we do battle with an 8-story robot, and we needed a vintage 1940s tow truck, which is very difficult to come by. We were originally supposed to shoot a derelict tow truck out in Pahrump, Nevada. Problem is it was outdoors. There was no way to control the lighting for the green screen. So I researched what are called a picture car rental company, which is a rental company that specializes in renting cars to movies. And we found one, and we struck a deal for it. But they also required a ridiculous insurance policy.
Right.
They required me to put up $1 million insurance bond.
Oh my God!
Whoa!
Yeah, I don't have $1 million.
No.
So not only did I have to put up an insurance bond, I had the stage for 8 hours. We were allowed to put the tow truck on the stage for 24 hours per our agreement with the stage owner. And we only had 6 hours to shoot with the tow truck because a light blew out on the stage. Plus we had according to union rules, we had to take breaks, we had lunch and all that stuff. So I had 6 hours to take all of those shots.
Wow.
And within minutes they were going to come take the truck away. I just kept pacing back and forth. They're going to take the truck away. They're going to take the truck away. They're going to take the truck away. Everybody's laughing. I was like, what the hell's wrong with them? I said, you don't understand. If we don't get these shots, they take the truck away. We don't finish.
But obviously you did.
We did. We got it.
Well,
By the
that's
seat of
great.
my pants, I got it.
Wow. You know, sometimes filmmaking is by the seat of the pants. We had who was Shant.
So Shant.
Yes, he said that his little short that he was filming was it was just a short, but they had borrowed a 4K camera, and the night they were setting up the shots, the night before they were going to film, the camera fell over and broke.
And
God.
broke. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
And they were rushing around trying to find another camera, and you know, just I mean, so many filmmakers that we talk to, there's always some drama associated with the film that they're making, and it's one thing after another, but they all turn out great.
Yeah.
At least the ones we've seen. So
Well, you know, there is drama. And low-budget filmmaking, there's so little margin for error.
oh my
Right.
gosh, yeah.
Lord forbid, if something happened to that truck, honestly, I'd be living in a cardboard box right now.
You know, but one of the things that I've really noticed about low-budget filmmaking, especially with independent filmmakers, Keith and I, you know, we've been to film festivals with independent makers. We've seen big-budget Hollywood films, and I find I continually turn towards what the independent filmmakers are able to do, because by working with limited amount of time and a limited amount of financial resources, that it forces them to draw upon ingenuity and extra creativity that maybe those same people wouldn't necessarily feel any need to call upon, because, oh, I'm being backed by a big studio, I've got a gazillion bucks, if it doesn't turn out, okay, we'll just shoot it again.
Well, you know, they say necessity is the mother of invention, but the other thing is that great art comes from limitations.
Yep.
And when you are a low budget or an indie filmmaker, you've got every limitation there is. There's no studio to bail you out. All there is your ingenuity. And a lot of times you change things that you're shooting based upon the resources available. If something is not available, or if you have a happy accident where you get something introduced that's going to increase your production value, let me tell you, you'll quickly change your script to include that increased production value.
Absolutely.
Well, and it's also, you are really invested in what you do. Some of the big budget films, you know, I mean, people are there.
Oh, it's just a paycheck now.
It's a paycheck, but you really, it is your baby, and you are completely invested in it.
Mm-hmm.
So
This is a passion project. You don't do an independent film unless you're passionate
oh, absolutely.
about it.
Yep.
You know, this is
and it
not a
shows.
paycheck for me.
And it
I've got a
shows.
day job that funds this. This is passion. I hope that someday, you know, that someone sees it, maybe it could turn into a paycheck, but the reality is I'm doing this because I'm driven by that geek love of what I'm doing, that geek love for all those things I identified, you know, pulp magazines, comic books, decoder badges, old movie serials. That's pure geek love. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
Well, and that kind of love will translate, because every time we've gone to film festivals, but, you know, that feature independent filmmakers, you see that love on the screen in some fashion or another. It is there, and I think that's one of the reasons why I find myself, and I know with Keith, we will gravitate towards that kind of filmmaking because that love is there, and that's why I'm one of the reasons why I'm so jazzed about Curse of the Phantom Shadow, especially after what you've had to say. Now, I'm curious, when did you actually start principal photography, and how long did that take?
We started in 2011, if you can believe it.
Good Lord!
Yeah. It's been a long project. We had the whole movie storyboarded. I had a great storyboard artist named Anthony, and he helped us out by getting us into pre-production and storyboard. I had a concept artist by the name of Zeke, and he helped sketch out what the costumes and so forth were going to look like. And then the principal photography was sporadic. It was on weekends, and whenever I could get people in town to shoot, because we had people coming in from LA. We had some local area actors. We tried to hire local to Las Vegas whenever possible, but unfortunately the community here is not very big, and we had very specific needs for the film. So we had to get people from out of town. But whenever I could get people to fly in, I could put them up in a hotel, schedule a crew or whatever. But it was definitely, nights and weekends kind of shooting. Wow. It was not consistent. We were shooting every day. We might shoot two scenes in 1 month, 2 scenes another month. It's whatever I could get.
Wow. That's amazing.
Very difficult.
Yeah. So if I can ask, when do you anticipate you might release this thing?
Hopefully next year. That's the goal. We
Okay.
got people helping out behind the scenes now, which I did not have before, and we're working towards the finish line.
Sounds good.
How far along in post are you?
We're pretty far along. All the 3D models are built. We have the rough edit of all the scenes. We are working now on the compositing, which is very tedious and very difficult.
Right. Wow.
Interesting. So how did you get this cast? Because these are people that they have some kind of a name on them. How are you able to attract them to the project?
Well, that's kind of an interesting story. So the first person who was cast, believe it or not, was Sadie Alexandru, who you'll see has got credits from AMC's Mad Men.
Right.
She was out here in Vegas doing something not related to film, and she was at a craft fair representing a company at that time. And I had no idea she was an actress, and I had spotted her out of the corner of my eye. I was having coffee with my cousin who lives here in town, and she says, "Mark, what are you looking at?" I said, "There's a girl over there." She says, "What about her?" I said, "I don't know." She says, "Why don't you go over and talk to her?" It's like, well, why do I want to talk to this person? Well, you might want to talk to her. Clearly something's bugging you. So I go over and I talk to Sadie. Turns out she's an actress. And she gives me her card. I said, "Well, I'm a filmmaker." And I put the card away, not thinking anything about it. And then a year later, when I start casting, I realized why I went over there. She was a dead ringer for the character of Gas Pump Girl. She was the exact physical type.
She's what you were visualizing in your head.
She was the perfect match, and subconsciously it must have dawned on me that I'd found the person, and I didn't realize it. So a year later, I happened to still have her card, not thinking anything of it. I said, "Gee, I think I still have that card." I emailed her, and I said, "This is who I am. This is what I'm doing. Might this be something you're interested in?" I said, "I'll never hear from this person. There's no way anything's going to come of this, but you never know." She emailed me back within about an hour. I said, "Yeah, I think that might intrigue me." So I sent her the treatment and everything, and she was like, "Yeah, I want to do this." I'm like, "Really?"
Wow.
And I was shocked. And then she says, "Well, I'm in SAG. You'll have to get cleared by the Screen Actors Guild." And I'm saying to myself, "Well, how hard can that be?" So, it was difficult, but we were very fortunate. In town, we had our local area SAG representative, and he worked with me and helped me get cleared. He was very good. A guy by the name of Steve Clinton. He was fantastic. He took me under his wing. He taught me what I needed to know, and he helped us get cleared. Once we got cleared, the floodgates opened. I could hire people from Hollywood. And the next thing you know, as I contacted people, once they heard I was a SAG film and I was putting SAG actors to work, I got interest.
Wow.
Okay. What was their reaction to the script?
They got it instantly. When we cast Howard Hughes, which is Curtis Buttenheim, and I sent him the scenes, he did a video audition, and within seconds, he just got it. And almost everybody we auditioned understood the plot and the script and what to do within seconds. I didn't have to give any notes whatsoever. Stephen Manley, who is in the film, he got it within seconds. Stephen lives here in Vegas, and we met up, and I explained to him what I want, and within seconds he understood.
Wow.
Far out. Now, yeah, that's wonderful. Now, you geeked me out really earlier when you mentioned the battle between the tow truck and the 8-story robot. I thought, oh, 8-story robot. Okay, now, if you didn't give me enough reason to see this movie, you've just added more. So I'm curious. Now, you said that this originally had started off as something of a YouTube project, but really, what is the genesis of this story? Now, you had mentioned certain things that you were, fans of, certain genres that you really appreciated, but where was the kernel for this story?
The kernel was this. During the dot-com boom, I developed a bunch of characters that I had planned to use for comic books. The comic books never happened, and they were also going to be part of my internet company, which never happened. So I went back to the source material that started Star Wars and Indiana Jones. I went back to the movie serials. I went back to all the pulp stuff that inspired them. And I said, well, I own these characters free and clear, and I put them together in a story that I would want to see. I said, well, I know I want to have Art Deco. I know what approximate time period I want. I'm a huge fan of 1940s pinup girls. I know I like vintage cars. I just put everything together and put it in a Republic movie serial wrapper with a splash of Spy Smasher, a bit of Dick Tracy, a touch of Batman, and that's the genesis.
Wow, that's incredible. I'm excited about it. I can't wait to see it.
I'm very excited about it. And just out of curiosity, because when watching the trailer, one of the things that really leapt out at me was not just the visual quality, but also the sound and the music.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, now tell us about the film score.
Well, that particular trailer score was composed by a gentleman by the name of Arliss Estes, who's a composer here in town. He composed that custom for that trailer. He also did the mix of the audio. Arliss is a friend and a coworker who lives here in town, and the voiceover was a voiceover talent I've worked with before, and I hired him to do the voiceover. But Arliss put together that custom music. Arliss did the audio mix, and Arliss just knocked it out of the park.
Will he be doing the actual film score itself?
We have a composer on board from 6 years ago. However, I think we're going to have a conversation because it's been 6 years. But the composer we had talked to for 6 years ago was keen to do it. We'll see where we're at. It has been 6 years, so to be fair, I don't know if that handshake agreement is still holding water.
Right. Now, interesting that we bring up again that this was a 6-year project. And with all movies, they have their own kind of evolution. They take on a life of their own. What are some of the unexpected directions that occurred as you started working on this?
Gosh, unexpected directions. The fact that I'm still doing it for 6 years.
I imagine you didn't expect it to take that long.
No. Anything I don't know how to do can only take 3 weeks. That's the old engineering joke. Gosh, things that were unexpected. Having to rent a vintage tow truck, that was never part of the budget. Having to put up an insurance bond was never part of the budget. Gosh, the visual effects complexity was beyond my comprehension. I had no idea how hard visual effects were, and I was later told by seasoned visual effects artists, oh, you're going to do water simulation? That's hard. Smoke, pyrotechnics, physics simulations, yeah, all that stuff's hard. I'm like, really? Oh, yeah. You've picked all the hard stuff to do. You're going to composite all this, and you don't have proper onset measurements, and you don't have logging on your lens and your distance from camera. Oh, yeah. That's going to be really difficult.
Oh, dear. And listen to all of that.
I learned all this the hard way. We've come to terms with it all, and we've gotten a lot of help, and a lot of people nudged us along behind the scenes. But I had no idea. And originally, I was using a consumer-grade 3D application called Carrera, which was not suitable for the task. And then someone pointed me over to Lightwave 3D, which is battle-hardened and proven on episodic television. Almost all the Star Trek television series were all done with Lightwave. Battlestar Galactica was done with Lightwave. And Lightwave is designed for people like me who are, doing small independent projects who have to be jacks of all trades. And when we switched to Lightwave, that was a huge, huge help.
Sounds like you need to hire Pixar.
Oh, if I had the budget for it, sure.
Yeah, that would have worked out much better for you, I'm sure. So let's kind of sum things up here. You said you hope to have the movie out by next year. Would you be taking this to? I mean, obviously you don't have a distributor at this moment. Would you be taking this movie to independent film festivals or conventions that have film screenings? Because something tells me that this.
To.
Yeah, I kind of get the feeling this movie would, just from what little I've seen so far, this movie would receive some huge reception.
Boy, that would be fantastic. I'd like to think that the last 6 years of my life will be, worth it. We will take it to anybody and anybody who wants to see it. I will hand out copies to anybody who wants to see it. The goal is not to make money. The goal is to get people to see it, enjoy it, and give them a good audience experience. My main goal for doing this, besides, showing off my intellectual property and my ideas, is to give someone a fun movie-going experience. I want to take them back to when I really enjoyed going to movies. I'll call it the summer of Amblin Entertainment.
Oh, yes.
Back to the Future, Goonies, Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's the feeling
best time
I
ever.
want.
That was like the 20th century golden age of cinema. Yeah,
that's what I want to recreate. I want that feeling I had, as a kid going to the theater, and that sense of awe. That time in your life when movies feel like magic. When you watched a movie and you were touched by someone who was effectively a master illusionist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can so relate. And I think it's one of the reasons why I'm so interested in seeing this film. So, for anybody who wants to learn more about Curse of the Phantom Shadow, is there any place on the internet, any website, anything along those lines so they could actually see what you're working on or learn more about the film?
So I'm going to give a few web addresses if that's okay.
Go ahead.
So we have an IMDb page, and it's phantomshadowimdb.com. That should take you there. We have a Facebook page, and that would be phantomshadowfb.com. There's a YouTube channel, and it's phantomshadowclips.com. And lastly, there's a blog, which we don't update that often. I'm a little negligent there. And it's curseofthephantomshadow.com. Probably the most lively and most engaged place to get information is phantomshadowfb.com. That's the Facebook page. We do update that pretty regularly. And we also anticipate having a trailer later this year that reveals more footage. Our visual effects team is working away like mad dogs trying to get some more footage we can put together. We got some rocket ships to show off. We got some explosions to show off. And we're really anxious to let people see what we've come up with.
Oh, I am so unbelievably... I mean, Keith and I are looking at each other with a stupid grin on our face. We are so jazzed for this film.
Well, I'm jazzed to be on your show and on your blog. I thank you guys so much for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, we have Stephen Manley to thank for that. Because he's the one who, was looking at his IMDb credits, and we saw that he was working on this. And the title, because it has that 1930s noirish vibe to it, I immediately gravitated towards it and said, okay, Stephen, you got to tell me about this film. So we've got Stephen to thank for that.
Wow.
And
you contacted him.
Stephen's awesome. He is just such a ball to work with. He really knocked it out of the park. He plays Captain Reynolds, and he brings the necessary bravado to it. It's a very Han Solo-esque style character, a cigar-smoking, hard-drinking pilot who flies by the seat of his pants, and he flies what looks like a reconditioned B-25 bomber.
Oh, wow. Well, there was one clip that I have to admit that made me laugh so hard, where he's in the cockpit, and in his in one of his hands, he's got like a whiskey flask, and he crosses himself while holding the flask, and a cigar in his mouth. I thought, oh, man, a man after my own heart.
That would be Stephen. Yeah, he was great. We had a ball. I built that cockpit in my living room, and he had so much fun with that. We had some great outtakes and bloopers, too.
Well, that's great.
I'm so thrilled for this
certainly
film.
Keep us in mind whenever.
Yes, please do.
If you need more, need to talk more about it, or you got more clips, we certainly will.
We will do
put
everything
them on the website.
Absolutely, we will do everything that we can to help push this project, because of this one thing that we love. I mean, Keith and I are big supporters of all types of independent creators, including independent filmmakers, especially when they are involved in labors of love. We love to get behind them.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here and have the opportunity to talk about my project with other film enthusiasts. And the fact that you guys knew who Forrest J. Ackerman was and remember
Well.
famous Monsters of Filmland, I got to tell you, that was way too cool for me. So I got a question for you guys. You guys are old school geeks like myself.
Yes.
Do you remember the Dick Smith monster makeup kit?
Actually, I do remember that.
I don't remember.
Because tomorrow's Halloween, and that's the only reason I bring it up, kind of an aside thing, because that was the one toy that I had in the 70s that was so dangerous, my parents took it away from me.
I wasn't allowed to have one.
I had one.
I
opened
did.
it up.
I didn't.
Sorry, go ahead.
I would love to have had one, but I think my mother, who, I don't know, I think my stepdad would have been okay with it, but my mom, absolutely not. There was no way she would ever allow me to have that set.
Well, my father bought it for me as a gift because he said, "What do you want?" I said, "I want this," and I pointed at the box, having no idea really what it was. And he opens it up and he sees the spirit gum, the flesh mix, the molds. And he says, "My God, this kid's going to glue his eyes shut." So he's like, nope. The only thing I was left with was the grease pencil and the molds.
Oh my gosh.
And to this day, it's the one toy, it's my holy grail toy of my old school geekdom that I look for on eBay. And the last time I saw one on eBay, it was like $600.
Oh my God.
But
wow.
it was something that was advertised in Famous Monsters of Filmland, and it's a very 1970s toy. This was back when...
Oh, now I do remember that. I do remember that now.
And I had to bring it up in honor of Halloween. Actually, I would like to bring up one other item in honor of Halloween. So tomorrow's Halloween, and one of the things that we have in the film is a very expensive professional prosthetic for the Phantom Shadow's henchman.
Yeah, we saw that. That was incredible.
Yeah.
That prosthetic is a silicone, it's not really a mask, but it's built like a mask, and it snaps to your head, and it looks photoreal and realistic up close. And it's for the Phantom Shadow's henchman, Gunther.
Right.
It's so real that the company who made it got in trouble because people were using their masks to rob banks, and they thought it was really that character.
Whoops.
And it turns out it was just a mask.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, well, that's a fun little anecdote.
Wow.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing was when I bought it, it was not as expensive. And since then, after I bought it, the price shot up to almost $1,000.
Oh,
wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, only one company makes it. It took 6 months for me to get that mask.
Wow.
It was, oh yeah, and one of the issues we had with it is we had to test it, and we had to do a costume fitting, and an actor by the name of Anthony Burkhalter put on the mask for the costume fitting. The character is later played by Jason Goldberg, my assistant director, but Anthony Burkhalter went to the clothing store to try on the suit, because Anthony and Jason were about the same size. The clerk saw the mask on him, and Anthony's in there flipping people the bird and everything else. No one knows that it's a mask, and he's like, it's like, Anthony, you gotta understand, someone's gonna come after you. He says, no way, they're not gonna know it's me as soon as I take the mask off. The clerk got scared. She says, what's wrong with that man? I said, and I had to explain to her, it's a prosthetic. She says, oh, thank goodness.
Wow.
Far out.
I'm very excited about the film.
I'm beyond excited for this movie. It really speaks to everything that I love about that retro science fiction. I think it's a lost art form, and I'm thrilled that you're bringing it back.
Well, thank you guys.
Well, thank you, Mark Ross, director, producer, jack of all trades of Curse of the Curse of the Phantom Shadow, for being with us this time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, baby. They're like two gay geeks. They're together, you know. They're two gay guys and they're geeks. Is that okay?
And here are a few selected birthdays for November 7th through November 13th, 2016. November 7th, Dean Jager.
Uh-oh, I think it's time to watch some White Christmas.
There we go. Yeah, he was the general in White Christmas, as well as a bunch of other
movies. The man's got, he had one heck of a catalog.
Yeah. Also on November 7th, Joan Sutherland.
Opera singer.
Opera singer, yes. And Marie Curie, who was born in 1867. So you could say she was kind of Radiant, huh?
Ah!
Radiumed. Radiumed. Anyway, November 8th, Margaret Mitchell was born in 1900. She was the author of Gone with the Wind. Also, Bram Stoker, 1847.
Who made Vlad, I was going to say Vlad the Impaler. Yeah, Vlad the Impaler, quite more infamous than he really was.
Actually, exactly. And also on November 8th, Sir Edmund Halley, born in 1646.
I'm wondering if a comet flew by that time.
Yeah, exactly. November 9th, Lou Ferrigno, Carl Sagan, and Hedy Lamarr.
That's Hedley.
No, it's actually Hedy. Hedy Lamarr was born in November 9th, and actually a little apocryphal story that Mel Brooks tells that Hedy Lamarr sued the...
Did she?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They gave her some money and
they silenced her.
Yep.
Ooh, I had no idea.
Yep. Also on November 9th, Karen Dotrice.
Of Mary Poppins fame. She was Jane.
Yes. And Mary Travers was
Peter,
born.
Paul, and Mary.
Yep. Dorothy Dandridge, who was famous for acting in Carmen Jones, and also Ed Wynn.
Interesting that he would also share a birthday with Karen Dotrice because he was the laughing uncle in Mary Poppins.
Yes. And also November 10th, Neil Gaiman, Roy Scheider, Richard Burton, Ennio Morricone.
Okay, I think I feel I should know that one.
Well, most recently he did music for The Hateful Eight. But more importantly, back in the 60s, he has so many credits to his name, music that he has done for so many films. But most famously, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
That is so infamous.
Yes, infamous, yes. Also, November 10th, Roland Emmerich. November 11th, Callista Flockhart and Kurt Vonnegut Jr. November 12th, Joe Stafford.
Also known as Darlene Edwards.
Yes, also known as Darlene Edwards. Yes, Joe Stafford was quite the singer and whatnot in the 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s.
Very skilled.
As with her husband, she became Jonathan and Darlene Edwards. So if you look them up.
It's a crying shame that there's I'm not aware of any video of them performing.
That would have been great.
I would love to just watch them perform because know that if they had been able to actually videotape this, like if they were around today, they'd be all over YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Because that they would find some way to also have fun with the visual. I'm sure they did because they performed at parties all the time.
Yeah, speaking of YouTube, there's actually some stuff of Jonathan and Darlene Edwards. Look up Jonathan and Darlene Edwards' I Love Paris.
Oh, my.
On YouTube.
I'll have to look for that
my
now.
Lord. It's a scream. Also, November 12th, Wallace Shawn.
His birthday is on the 12th. That's inconceivable.
Inconceivable.
Okay, yes, that was so easy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize.
November 13th, Jimmy Kimmel. And you had a run-in with Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, that's right. On the Wall of America, which was this time of year, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of years ago, because it was just before Age of Ultron came out.
Yeah, you were on the...
I was on the Wall of America right there.
Supposed to ask a question.
And they completely blew me off.
Well, the whole thing derailed anyway.
The producer apologized. Says, we tried something and it didn't work out, so we apologize.
Also, on November 13th, Gary Marshall. Yeah, Gary Marshall, who just died earlier this year, wasn't he?
Yeah, just recently. And I thought he was already dead.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
And that's it for the birthdays this time.
This is Kenny Rotter from the Dumbbells and Dragons podcast, where nerd and fitness collide. Join me and a guest every Wednesday for a new episode where we talk about all things nerdy, pop culture, and health and fitness. Follow me on all social media at Dumbbells Dragon or just search Dumbbells and Dragons. Work out, nerd out.
Go give a listen to our friend Kenny over at Dumbbells and Dragons podcast. And now, is Is this epic feedback?
Well, kinda.
Kinda, sorta?
Kinda, sorta. All mostly in one area.
Mostly in one area?
Mostly in one particular area, and you'll hear in just a few moments. Anyway, yes, this is the feedback time, and starting off with comments regarding episode 102, where we talked a little bit about how Tim Miller was leaving Deadpool as his director, and it had something to do with the casting or attempted casting of Kyle Chandler as Cable. Anyway, good friend of the show, Brian Weber, Arkle, he writes, Kyle Chandler as Cable? I don't know. I like the guy. Remember that show, Early Edition? Well, Brian, I do. Love that show. I don't see him as Cable, though. Stephen Lang probably would have been the best choice. Kind of sort of agree. Although I would have been cool with Dolph Lundgren in the role. He's still in remarkable shape for his age, and he has the physical presence to pull it off. And the fact the guy is genuinely funny, though not many people know that. Actually, yeah, I didn't know that. Interesting. And then we got just a little quiet comment from Russ Emanuel / Occupants, and it's only because we gave them some shout outs, and they just simply wrote back with nice. Glad you liked it. And then we got a really nice comment from Tommy Cannon, who says, loved hearing such passion being shared for the horror genre. TG Geeks equals boss. Check them out. And then he mentions another podcast, the Stellar Robot Sidekick podcast. Okay, well, I feel motivated now. And then we ran an article about how Lexa Doig, who has really kind of made a name for herself in the sci-fi genre, first with the Gene Roddenberry-inspired series Andromeda, and then later in the Stargate series, she has been cast to play Talia al Ghul in Season 5 of Arrow. And if anybody doesn't remember who Talia is, we saw her as a little child in Legends of Tomorrow. Anyway, Lexa will be playing the adult version. And we got a message from, and I feel like such a fool, Kurt Armbruster, who's been following us for some time. I just realized he's the Kurt in Calgary from Slice of Sci-Fi.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
duh.
my gosh. Duh.
Yeah, see, I need to put the letters HUD on my forehead. That way, every time I look in a mirror, I will see duh on it. Yeah. Anyway, now this, you have to follow me on this one. He says, she will be played by 370 more words? Cool. Okay, let me explain that one. We publish the stories on our website via WordPress. They then get shared over onto Facebook, and what happens is Facebook will truncate it, but then it'll say at the bottom, in parentheses, how many words are left. Yep. And as it turns out, it simply said, and Lexa Doig will be playing, and then there was a truncate, and then it says 370 more words. Wow. Yeah, you had to have been there. And then we ran a story about how a movie that we have been really pushing, and in terms of not just their publicity, but also on their crowdfunding, Morning After. They just wrapped production, and if anybody doesn't remember anything about Morning After, we did do an interview. Do you remember what interview that was? Which episode?
67, I believe.
Yes, with Patricia Chica and Christian Hodko. And anyway, the movie wrapped production. And so we got a message from Patricia Chica, as well as Chick Arts Public Relations, as well as Morning After, as well as Lost in Salvation. And it reads, thank you, TG Geeks of TG Squared Studios, for breaking the news about Morning After. Thanks so much, Ben and Keith. Love you guys. # Morning After movie.
Yay.
Yay. We're happy about that. And then we also had a little mention from Max Laferriere, as he shared the story, and he simply wrote that here's a small press release and teaser of Morning After. A proof of concept for a coming feature film includes my very talented buddies Christian Hodko, who's also the writer, and the amazing Jordana Lejoie. Way to go, guys, coming spring 2017. And he actually quoted, or he then pointed everybody to the press release that we ran on our website. And then a Cinedump actually made mention of us as well, although we were mentioned individually as associate producers of the Morning After, and Patricia just added a little comment. Thanks so much for posting this. It's so cool. And yeah, it's kind of neat to see our names out there like that.
Yeah.
And then we ran a review of the new Doctor Strange movie, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later in this episode. But there were a number of comments that came out of that, First off, there was a comment from our good friend Claire O'Leary, and she wrote, "It's fantastic. I saw it on Saturday. Yay, Europe."
Yeah.
They see it before we do. And she added, "Marvel seems to do an early release in Europe with most of their movies. Maybe it's to make up for the super late releases we get with Pixar." I didn't know that. And then we got Jeff George, friend of ours personally, wrote, "I really enjoyed it. A great introductory film." Okay. And Kurt in Calgary said, "Going tonight, it had better not turn out that his mother's named Martha." To which Claire then writes, "Geez, spoilers." And you had something to say about that.
And then I said, well.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. And then lastly, and this is the last one of the entire segment, Tom Fott wrote, "Great storytelling, characters, thought-provoking, and conversation-inducing. 3D is a must, and IMAX is the icing."
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I think Kurt did have a
If he had a
follow-up comment.
I couldn't find it anywhere.
And it was something like, well, his mother's name was Martha, and I mean, he pulled in several tropes from several different movies.
I see that.
It was just kind of a little...
Well, hey, Kurt crossing the streams there.
Yes,
That's all
exactly.
DC stuff. Marvel's got a little bit more sense to start naming all the mothers Martha,
Yep.
I would hope.
Anyway, so thank you for all the comments. We really appreciate it. If you have a comment or you want to let us know something about the show, whether you like it or dislike it, or something you dislike about the show or like about the show, please let us know. We want to know what you think, and we want to hear your comments. You can comment on our Facebook page or at tggeeks.com. You can also leave information on our YouTube episodes, or you can call our listener feedback line at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357.
Hey, this is Robert Palmer of I'm Alone the Movie.
And Michael Weiss from I Am Alone the Movie.
And you're listening to the Two Gay Geeks.
Okay, and as we alluded to in the last segment, how we were going to talk about Doctor Strange. Yes, we saw the movie last week at a press screening. I wrote a review for it, and it's on our website at tggeeks.com, and we will include the link for that in our show notes for this episode. And let me preface everything by saying, and I bring this up in the review, I am a Doctor Strange fanatic. Have been since I was in high school. I loved the stuff that came out of the Steve Englehart, Frank Brummer era. Just some really dark, almost horror kind of imagery and storytelling. So, and I just ate up Doctor Strange at that point. So I don't know if I would call myself an expert, but I was really well informed on the subject. So naturally, that colored my expectations going into this movie. Having said that, now Keith, by your own, and you've said this multitude of times, you're not an expert on comic books themselves.
At all.
Your introductions have always been these movies alone.
Right.
So, with that, what was your take on the film?
I liked the film. I thought it was good. I thought Benedict Cumberbatch did a great job. I thought Tilda Swinton did a great job with the character, and as I understand, it was supposed to be a different character, but that's okay. I think she did a good job of that, and they changed her origin around a little bit to fit her being that character. I liked the film. I liked the visuals. The humor was a little much at points, but there was enough humor that I thought it was interesting. So I liked it a lot.
How would you now? We saw it in IMAX in 3D. What was your take on that?
I'm not a fan of 3D, and after a while, I guess I didn't notice it as much.
Are you acclimated to the whole
and then
feel?
The whole IMAX thing. It was big and it was 3D. So, but I did acclimate to it. I thought probably this movie is one that should be seen in 3D.
That's going to be my next question.
Just for some of the effects that they used, especially in the magic world. So I think it definitely needs to be seen in 3D just for that.
Okay, I won't. So I'll just add this little bit. In fact, I read a really interesting comment from somebody else just moments before we started recording. He expressed why he thought Doctor Strange kind of failed, and he brought up a really good point that I had not considered. When we look at the past Marvel films, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, they each, even Guardians of the Galaxy, they each had their own unique tone to it. Iron Man was your that's the movie that started them all. So there's your archetype. The failed inventor, I'm not failed really, but I don't know quite how to describe Tony Stark, but the very successful inventor who then turns around and redeems his own life. You got Captain America, the World War II movie / political thriller kind of film that we got later on. You got Thor with all its mythological grandeur. You've got Guardians of the Galaxy, which was just a pure space romp. And now you've got Doctor Strange, which really kind of borrowed from all of them. So I never felt that it kind of took it didn't set its own tone. With that, there has been talk about who. Now, the movie has not been given a green light for a sequel yet, but there's been talk about who the director would like to get for the sequel as the big bad. And it's a character named Nightmare. And I'm very familiar with who Nightmare is, and the thought then just really just hit me so hard. Doctor Strange needs to be a horror genre.
Yeah, could
Think about that. I mean, because it's going into all these dark places of magic.
Right.
And that could almost be a metaphor for the dark places of the human psyche.
Yeah.
It could be. I mean, not literally, but it could serve as that allegory kind of attempt. And Nightmare is this being that feeds off of people's terror. He gives the nightmares, he feeds off their terror, and that gives him strength. So think about it. What kind of that's almost not quite Freddy Krueger, but it's sort of along that same vein, where you've got this being who instills fear in you just to become stronger. That could be an amazing horror genre.
Yeah.
I would love to see Doctor Strange go down that road.
That could be interesting. Just a whole new offshoot of Marvel that covers a completely different genre.
And the mid to late 70s era really kind of dwelled in that. It featured some of the most demonic looking creatures. Some of them even have their bases in Lovecraft almost.
Yeah.
So I would love to see that happen. Marvel, if you're hearing us, maybe think about that. That would just completely open up your entire franchise into a totally new direction.
Yeah.
I would love to see that happen.
Doctor Strange hosts Night Gallery 2.
Oh my word! Somehow I don't think the Batch kind of needs that as a job. I could just see him walking along a bunch of portraits. I was like, imagine if you will. For
your consideration.
For your consideration, yes. That could be kind of fun. Okay, so with that, moving on to something a little bit more pleasant and optimistic. One movie that Keith and I are absolutely madly in love with since it came out was Big Hero 6.
I loved that film.
Love this movie.
It was so good on so many different levels.
It really is. It's this movie. If you haven't seen it yet, what has stopped you? It's fantastic. And now there is talk. Well, not just it's more than talk. It's actually finalized. There is going to be a Big Hero 6 TV series for Disney XD. It will be animated. We don't know anything about the quality of the animation yet. If they're going to kind of dumb it, I don't want to say dumb it down, but reduce it a little bit so that it's more affordable and easier to produce.
TV animation.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, they're bringing back most of the voice cast from the original film.
Yeah.
Which I think is
I
really
thought it was
wonderful.
great, yeah.
Oh, I'm so happy with some of these voices. Maya Rudolph will be coming back as Aunt Cass. Jamie Chung as Go-Go. Scott Adsit. Who else is going to do Baymax?
Right.
He's
exactly.
the only one who can do Baymax. I love that he's doing it. Ryan Potter will be coming back as Hero himself. Alan Tudyk, I mean, the man of many voices, will be coming back as Alistair Cray. Interesting, since we saw him go to jail in the movie. And this series is supposed to pick up
not Craig. Craig didn't go to jail.
Alexander Cray, yeah. He was arrested for all his acts of terrorism.
Well, he was not the one that did.
Yes, it was.
It wasn't Craig.
Yes, it was.
It was.
Who did Alan Tudyk play?
He played you're thinking of the James Cromwell character.
You're right. I'm sorry. I stand corrected.
Professors, whatever.
That's right.
Yeah.
James Cromwell. Okay. Yeah. Caught me again. Another goof.
Well,
that's right. Alexander Cray didn't go to jail. Okay. Oh boy.
anyway.
Okay, I've got egg on my face.
No worries.
Any case, he'll be back, which is nice to know. Genesis Rodriguez will be back as Honey Lemon, and although this one kind of puzzled me, David Shaughnessy will be back as the butler Heathcliff. He had such a small part.
Well, he may play a bigger part. Well, read the rest of the cast. So.
Lastly, Stan Lee.
Well, Stan Lee is
as Fred's dad,
and then there was somebody else as Fred's mother. So that apparently there's going to be some
family stuff going on there.
So that would be the butler, and the butler is probably going to be, like Alfred, because it sounds like they're probably going to, because Fred has the money.
Yeah.
And they're going to have this secret hideout and all of this other stuff. And
some of the other people, Susan Sullivan from Castle will be playing Fred's mother. Sean Gambron from the Goldbergs as Richardson Mole. I have no idea who that is.
Okay.
John Ross Bowie as Mel, Haley Chu as Carmi. So they're introducing new people. Sadly, somebody that is not coming back that I'm really kind of bummed about is the original voice for Wasabi. That was Damon Wayans.
Yeah.
He's not coming back. He had such a great voice for the part. But Damon Wayans, he's a very busy person, so I can see why they're not getting him to come back. So somebody named Carrie Payton will be playing the part of Wasabi, and Brooks Wheelan will be playing Fred, and he's replacing T.J. Miller. In any case, like I said, we've got a whole article on all the voices that are going to be a part of this. The Emmy Award winners Mark McCorkle, Bob Shuley, and Nick Philippi will be serving as executive producers, and Philippi is also going to be the supervising director. This Big Hero 6 is a production of Disney Television Animation. It will be on Disney XD. We don't exactly have a date yet as to when this is going to be hitting, but as soon as we do, we will be sure to share it with all of you. I'm excited.
Yeah.
And all we know is it's set to premiere in 2017. That's all we know. We don't have an actual date yet. I'm excited. We don't get Disney XD, so we'll have to probably find alternate means to get our hands on it. Maybe there's a Disney app on Apple TV that'll allow us to stream it.
You never know.
So, anyway, that's it for our stories for today.
And the follow-up items, as always, check out our calendar on the website. If you have a birthday or event, be it a con or film festival or whatnot, send us a note. And as everybody is aware by now, we have become huge supporters of independent creators, whether they are filmmakers, comic book artists, writers, or other. We found that there's a tremendous amount of talent out there that doesn't get the big money or the fame. So if you hear about a crowdfunding campaign, please consider supporting it. You can usually get in for as little as $1, and you never know, it might be something big, and you could say you were part of the process. Please consider supporting independent creators. Phoenix Comic-Con 2017, May 25th through the 28th. Yes, it has moved back to Memorial Day weekend.
For the
Hooray!
next several years, in fact.
Yay. Keep checking PhoenixComicCon.com for info, tickets, and hotel bookings. Information should be available mid to late November. That's what they've said. So check it out. Verde Valley Comic Book Expo, April 1st, 2017. Details coming soon.
And must give thanks to the Doctor Who Talking Who on Twitter. They published the Doctor Who Fancast Guide, and they continue to publish our stories over and over again, which makes us very, very happy. And you can read the Fancast Guide by following Doctor Who Talking Who on Twitter. The handle is @TalkingWho. And earlier we read some feedback that came from good friend Arkle. He has the Arkle Times Post Dispatch News. You can read the Post Dispatch News by looking for Social Justice Scald on Twitter. The handle @Arkle. And Brian, as we always said, he has his incorrect Star Trek Voyager quotes on Tumblr. And, okay, this is a fun one. I looked at this a little earlier, and I was just like, whoa. Belana Torres, rules are made to be broken. Tuvok, they're made to be followed. Nothing is made to be broken. Belana, pinatas. Tom Paris. Glow sticks. Belana, karate boards. Tom Paris. Spaghetti when you have a small pot.
Ha.
Boy, I'd like to know the genesis on that one. Where did that come from?
Exactly.
And also, we must give thanks to Sci-Fi Obsession on Facebook for republishing our stories. They run they just don't republish us. I mean, they've become really a repository for a lot of interesting sci-fi related stories that get published throughout, not just the week, but daily. And you can find them by going to facebook.com/sci-fi-ob. That is SCIFIOB.
And we want to give a shout out to The Lookie Show, the twins, Sasha and Dagmar. They're really a lot of fun. You can check out their Twitter feed at Lookie Show, although they are taking a hiatus for November. And you can catch their show on YouTube as Lookie Show. If you like old movies and good commentary, check them out on YouTube for The Lookie Show.
And lastly for me, give a shout out to the Facebook group, The Gay Geek, because they have really amazing content there. And part of that content, hey, that gets to be our episode. So we thank them for that. And you can find them by going to facebook.com/group/thegaygeek. And as always, the biggest thanks possible to their moderator, Jeremiah Reeves, for saying, okay, you can share your stuff here.
Yep, thanks, Jeremiah. We want to remind you to occasionally click on our Amazon ads. It doesn't cost anything, and you don't have to buy anything. Just click on an ad, and it tells them we're getting a little traffic. If you do decide to buy something, check out one of our search ads and buy it through that. We get a little bit of a kickback from them. And lastly, please, 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 rate us on iTunes.
Yes, please. Thank you.
And up next time, I think we have another little interview for you. So
yes.
Stay tuned. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this episode. We're going to have several links on the page stuff we talked about. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or at tggeeks.com or on YouTube. You can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. From TG Squared Studios, I'm Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. I bid you peace.
Cheers as I wipe egg off my face.